Now that you've begun to familiarize yourself with QGIS Desktop and the data for Hawaii, you'll learn how to build a map from scratch in QGIS Desktop. You'll rebuild the Hawaii map. So here I have a new QGIS Desktop project open. The first step is to add data to my map. QGIS has Add Data buttons for each major geospatial data model, vector and raster. I'll click the Add Vector Data button. This opens the Add Vector Layer window, so let's add one of the Esri shapefiles, which is a file-based dataset. I'll keep the source type on File, which is the default, and then I'll click the Browse button. This opens the Open and OGR supported Vector Layer window. OGR is another open source project which QGIS uses to read and write vector data layers. This window defaults to the All Files setting. I'll click this drop-down to show the available options. QGIS can open many different vector file formats. I'll change the filter to Esri shapefiles, which is the format that our data is in. I'll select the County 10 shapefile and click Open and Open to add the data to QGIS Desktop. I now see County 10 in the Layers panel and the map features displayed on the map canvas. Vector GIS layers will come in with random colors. I'll cover how to change the layer styling after the layers have all been added. Now you'll learn another method of adding data to QGIS Desktop. You'll use the QGIS Desktop browser panel. I'll click the View menu, scroll down to Panels, and check Browser. The browser panel is now displayed. Panels can be docked and undocked from the QGIS Desktop graphical user interface. I'm going to drag the title bar of the browser panel and drop it right on the Layers panel. It will then become a tab on the Layers panel. With this arrangement, it's always accessible without taking up additional screen space. Note that there's a Favorites item. You can identify folders or locations as being favorites in order for them to appear here. Data is often stored deep inside a series of folders. It's often tedious and time-consuming to navigate deep inside the folders to gain access to the data. Favorites provides a way to create a shortcut directly to any folder so that you have one-click access to any folder. Let's create a favorite to our lab folder for practice. I'll navigate to the lab data folder in the QGIS browser. I'll right-click on the data folder and choose Add as Favorite. And a note on this. Currently, this functionality is reserved only for the browser panel in QGIS Desktop. However, once it's set up, it will show up as a favorite in the full QGIS browser application as well. Now I'll expand the Lab 2 data folder by clicking the plus next to it and expand the subfolder Hawaii underneath that. I see 6 shapefiles in the Lab data folder. I can select them all by holding down the Control key with my keyboard while clicking on each shapefile. I'll select the 5 shapefiles I haven't added and drag the 5 selected shapefiles onto the map canvas from the browser panel. I'll switch back to the Layers panel. The random colors that QGIS assigns to your layers may be different than the one shown in this video, but that's fine. You'll rename and reorder these layers as specified in the lab. I've gone ahead and done this. Now you'll learn how to style these layers. I'll double-click on the main roads layer to open up the Layer Properties window. Then I'll select the Style tab. In the Symbol Layers box, I'll select Simple Line. The Symbol Layer Type area on the top right corner of the Layer Properties window allows you to change both the color and the width for this line layer. I'll click on the colored box to the right of Color to open up the Color Picker window. The Select Line Color window opens. This window has many options for choosing a color. You can use the tabs across the top to open a color ramp, a color wheel, color swatches, or use the color picker. You can also use the HSV and RGB sliders on the right to define a specific color. I'll click the Color Swatches tab, and I'll choose from the standard colors and click the black color patch. And click OK, and OK again to see the new style applied to the roads layer. Using the same technique, you'll change the rivers to blue. I've gone ahead and done this. Now I'll work on the county boundary styling. I'll double-click on the county boundaries layer to open up the Layer Properties window, and again choose the Style tab. I'll choose Simple Fill. This is a polygon layer, so I have the option to change both the fill and the border color of this polygon. I'll double-click on the Fill Color patch to open the Select Fill Color window. Here I'll use the red, blue, and green RGB color slider to define the color. I'll set the RGB value to 215, 194, 158. I'll click OK and OK to set the color. You'll use this technique to change the styling of the native Hawaiian homelands. I've gone ahead and done this. Now I'll style the 2-point layers, cities and hospitals. I'll open the Layer Properties Style tab for cities, click on the symbol marker, and from the available symbol markers at the bottom of the symbol layer type, I'll choose the square. I'll change the fill to white and keep the size at 2, and click OK to accept these changes. Next, I'll open the Layer Properties for the Hospitals layer. Again, I'll choose Symbol Marker. Then I'll click the drop-down for Symbol Layer Type and choose SVG Marker. A large list of SVG groups organized by folders will appear in the symbol window, and I'll click on the Emergency folder and choose the cross symbol. You can change the colors and sizes of these SVG symbols. I'll change the fill color to a dark blue and leave the size at 7. And click OK. Now I'll zoom into Oahu. The map's coming together. Next, I'll add labels to the cities. Labels are created from attributes. To see what attributes are available, I'll right-click on the cities layer and choose Open Attribute Table. Each table row represents data for one of the city points. You can see there are 26 cities in the layer. Each column contains things we know about each city point. Notice that there's a column called Name containing city names. I'll use this to label the cities. I'll close the table by clicking on the X in the upper right-hand corner. Next, I'll open the Layer Properties for cities, and I'll switch to the Labels tab. I'll click the Label this layer with, and from the drop-down, choose the Name column. Along the left-hand side, there are several labeling tabs that allow you to specify the appearance and behavior of the labels: text formatting, buffer, background, shadow, placement, and rendering. I'll select the buffer item, and I'll click the checkbox next to Draw Text Buffer. This will place a halo around the label, making it easier to read against a busy background. I'll keep the default size at 1 and the color at white, and I'll click OK. With that done, I'll save my project. I'm going to name this Hawaii Map Task 3 and click Save. In the next task, I'll add some data collected in the field to my map.